Welcome to the Feed Your Family Tonight podcast. Do you dread hearing the question, what's for dinner? Whether you spend your days keeping up with toddlers, running kids to after-school activities, or juggling a career and family, getting dinner on the table can be a struggle for us all. I'm Mariefiebach, a business owner, wife, and mom of 4. I'm on a mission to build stronger families one dinner at a time, and I'm here with tips, tricks, and inspiration you need to feed your family tonight. Hello, friends. Welcome to the Feed Your Family Tonight podcast, episode 134. I'm your host, Mariefiebach, and today we're going to talk about weeknight dinner is hard, but you still have to do it. It was about this time last year that I recorded episode 75 on the emotional burden of feeding your family. It is one of my favorite episodes of all time because I really dug deep and thought about all of the micro decisions I make as a mother that go into getting dinner on the table. And it's so much more than picking a recipe. It's really about calculating all of the different nutritional needs of the people in my family, calculating all of their preferences, calculating my energy and how much time do I have, and looking at the likes and the dislikes, making sure that I have something that my kids prefer at least every other day. All of these little micro decisions that we make as a mother go into the emotional burden of feeding your family. And today I kind of want to take that one step further, and I want to talk about how getting weeknight dinner on the table can be really hard, but we still have to do it. I mean, the reality is that we have to eat. It's a physical need for our families. If we don't eat, we will die, right? And as parents, it's our responsibility to feed our family. And that can feel really hard sometimes. I am a food pro. Food is my job, right? I coach families and I help them figure out their weeknight dinner challenges. I sort through what's happening in their schedule and their different dietary needs. And I help them come up with a plan that works in their home. But does that mean that I love making dinner for my family every night? Not at all. I would almost say that most nights getting dinner on the table is not my favorite thing in the world. It is not my favorite part of the week. It's kind of funny. The first couple of years of my marriage, I taught aerobics class first thing early in the morning, and I thought I was this morning person. And the past few years, I have realized that I get my best work done between 1:30 in the afternoon and 5:30 in the afternoon. And oftentimes 5:30 hits and I am in the middle of something and I am in my zone. And the last thing I want to do is stop my creativity and go downstairs and fix dinner for my family. That's when dinner feels like a chore because I'm having to stop something that I am totally in the zone in, something I am loving, to go and fix dinner for my family. And I'm a person who likes to cook, but weeknight dinners are not the same as cooking a fun brunch for your girlfriends. Weeknight dinners are in a category all their own. They're often repetitive, and they're often, dare I say, boring. Lots of people find Feed Your Family Tonight when they're fed up, when they're frustrated with how dinners are going in their family. Maybe their kids are starting to run in a million different directions and it's hard to figure out when they're going to eat. Maybe your kid just got diagnosed with a food allergy and you are overwhelmed with reading all the labels and thinking you're never going to be able to eat like a normal family ever again. Maybe you find me because you have gotten into a rut and you're tired of eating the same 10 dinners over and over again, but you eat those same 10 dinners because they fit in your budget. Your family will eat them without too much complaint. But then after you feed those same 10 dinners for 6 months, your family won't touch those dinners again. And you're like, I don't know what to make. Lots of people come to me looking for a magic recipe that is going to fix all of their weeknight dinner problems. And I'm here to tell you that there is no magic recipe. That each family is different, and there's not one recipe that's going to fix all of your family's woes. Even if you find a recipe that is one of those magical recipes that's easy, inexpensive, nutritious, and your family eats it without complaint. I mean, isn't that what we're all trying to find? A recipe that's easy, inexpensive, nutritious, and your family eats it without complaint. Even if you find one of those recipes, you cannot make that recipe 5 days a week because your family's going to get tired of it and then they won't eat it anymore and you've lost the magic of the magic recipe. Day in, day out, weeknight family dinners can be hard, but we still have to do it. And I am here to help you ease that burden a little bit. It's not going to be fancy. It's not going to be Pinterest perfect, and it's not always going to be nutritionally balanced, and that is okay. I've been having some really great conversations in DMs on Instagram the past few days. This morning, I was private messaging back and forth with a lovely woman who is a trained chef. She has gone to culinary school and she knows how to make all the fancy foods. And she was getting ready to go off on a weekend and she had bought food for her husband to feed her children. And she showed me her grocery bags and it was frozen convenience foods all the way. French fries, tater tots, chicken nuggets, you know the game. She goes, I've got a bag of salad here, so they're going to have some veggies, but it wasn't perfectly gourmet food. And as a trained chef, she did not spend her week getting all sorts of things set up in her freezer for her family to pull out of the freezer and reheat so that they would have perfectly nutritious, balanced, fancy meals. No, she went to the frozen food aisle and she got foods that she knew her family would like, that her husband wouldn't have trouble just quickly throwing in the air fryer and reheating. And she was okay with that. And I'm here to tell you that if dinner is chicken nuggets sometimes or macaroni and cheese, that's okay. Feeding your family is enough. You as a mother getting dinner on the table, no matter what it looks like, is enough. Now, I can give you some techniques and make things a little bit easier, but the interesting thing is, what works for my family is not necessarily going to work for your family. It is not a one-size-fits-all solution. Another great conversation I've been having on Instagram this week was with a lady who had hit that place where she was tired of the same 10 recipes over and over again. Have you been there? She has a large Facebook community, and she put in her Facebook community, I need your best, easy family weeknight dinners. And she said, I'm here to say something kind of controversial. 50% of those recipes that she got, she goes, I had 100 recipes. People gave me 100 recipes as comments. 50% of them were for the crock pot. And she goes, not a big fan of the crock pot. My kitchen's kind of small. I have to dig into another part of the house to pull out my crock pot. Then I've got a small kitchen sink and it's a pain to clean. Add to that the fact that so many of the foods made in the crock pot are wet or saucy, and my kids are really not here for foods that are wet or saucy. And I just have to say, if I see crock pot, I just do a mental checkbox, not for me. That recipe's not for me. Now, there's something really good about that, is that she has recognized that the crock pot is not for her. Even if half the people that she was talking to said, you've got to try this crock pot recipe. It is our family's favorite. It's totally good. It's totally easy. It's okay to say a recipe is not for you. It's okay to say that an appliance is not for your family or a cooking technique is not for your family. And sometimes there's a real freedom in that, saying, I see that is a recipe and other people say it's the best thing in the world, but it wasn't for her. I want you to start thinking about the ideas that you have around food in your family. And I want you to start thinking about the kinds of foods that your family likes, the kinds of cooking techniques that you find easy. And just because someone else says this crock pot recipe or this Instant Pot recipe or this air fryer recipe is the perfect thing, or you need to buy a crock pot, you need to buy an Instant Pot, you need to buy an air fryer, does not mean that that has to be for you. It was funny because then I took her ideas about the crock pots and I went to my Instagram community and I said, what do you think about the crock pot? Do you love it? Or are you kind of meh? I have to say, if you look at my website, you're going to see that I'm kind of meh on the crock pot. It is my favorite appliance for making bone broth, but you don't need it to make bone broth. But I love it for making bone broth. But other than that, meh. Sometimes I'll use it, but it's not preferred. And the main reason why is because my kids do not like food that is full of sauce. And crock pots need slow, wet cooking. And that means sauce. And my kids don't really like sauce. So when people responded that they loved their crock pot, I asked them, what do you like to make in it? And that was really eye-opening for me too. Because I saw that almost all of the things they made in the crock pot, with like one or two little exceptions, were meat. And most of those meats were things that they would shred and then add to something else. So they weren't making the whole meal in the crock pot. They were using the crock pot as a way to cook the meat to turn it into something else, which means that the crock pot isn't doing all of the cooking. And that's a big distinction too. Today, I am here to give you permission to admit that weeknight dinners are hard. I'm here to let you know that just because they're hard sometimes does not mean that there is not hope, that it cannot be just a little bit easier. Feed Your Family Tonight would not exist if I did not believe that there was hope for busy families getting weeknight dinner on the table. It would not exist if I did not believe that weeknight dinners are important. If you listen to the intro of this podcast, I say that I am building stronger families one dinner at a time. And I can tell you from the depths of my heart, I believe that. I believe that family dinners are one of the best ways to strengthen families. And when you have children that are in strong families, whatever those families look like, they are going to be stronger when they go out into the world. It is worth putting in the effort to feed your family, but it doesn't have to be perfect. And if you are taking chicken nuggets and heating them in the microwave, or you are making a box of macaroni and cheese, you have fed your family and dinner is done and you are winning as a mom. There is a meme that has been floating around the internet and I've seen 2 or 3 different versions of it and it hits me hard. It is a picture of a young man on his knee proposing to a young woman. And the caption says, "Will you agree to decide what's for dinner and cook until death do us part?" That's kind of one of those statements that kind of makes you laugh and kind of makes you choke at the same time. Because coming together and creating family means that you're going to have to cook together. But it doesn't mean that you have to carry that burden alone. It doesn't mean that your spouse can't help you some way, sometime. It doesn't mean that you have to cook from scratch every night. It doesn't mean that you have to have perfectly nutritionally balanced meals every night. But it does mean you're going to have to figure out what's for dinner most of the nights. And I have a system for you. It is not one size fits all. It is adaptable and it helps you figure out how to make dinners work in your home with recipes that work for your family and tastes and foods, whether you've got food allergies, picky eaters. If you've got kids that like stuffed peppers, then it will help you put stuffed peppers. If you are like me and my kids are not going to touch a stuffed pepper with a 10-foot pole, it's going to work for you. The next 2 weeks are going to be replay episodes, and I'm going to talk about vacation planning because the world is starting to open up a little bit, and I think a lot of us are ready to get out of Dodge and take a little bit of a vacation. So I'm going to talk about food planning on vacation on a couple of replay episodes. In 3 weeks, I'm going to come back and I'm going to start talking a little bit more about the Feed Your Family Tonight system and how it can make the burden of feeding your family on a weeknight just a little bit easier. Is it still going to be work? 100%. Dinner is always going to be a job. If you can remove that expectation of having it be perfect and remove the expectation of enjoying every minute of feeding your family, it's going to be so much easier when dinner gets a little tough, because you know that that's just part of what you do. It's kind of like when I tell my kids that sometimes there's things they don't want to do. And I'm like, yeah, my dear friend was talking about her children who work at a chicken farm. Her son, who is about to be a sophomore in college, says, I'm always going to think that every job for the rest of my life is better than working at the chicken farm. And that's a good lesson to teach our children, is that sometimes you just have to suck it up and work the hard job. Sometimes you have to do the things that aren't easy. And I'm not going to say that dinner is this big drudgery, because I'm not going to buy into that either, because I don't think it has to be a drudgery. And I'm here to help you make it a little bit easier. But if you're one of those people that feels like dinner is hard, know that you're okay, and that's okay. And I'm here to help. So for now, friends, I hope you are having a great week. I hope you do have a little bit of joy in feeding your family this week, or at least connecting with them at the dinner table. You have got this. Take care.